Welcome to Selling in the Motor Trade, in association with Automotive Management and Simco Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips, and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett, or some of you might already know me as Skippy. And firstly, I want to say thank you for taking the time to tune in. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. Hey, listen, do me a favor, please just write a comment, forward this on to people in your team, let everyone know about it. You know, it's our purpose to get this podcast into as many salespeople, managers, service advisors, everyone in the motor trade. It's a way where we can share tips, ideas, best practice of how to sell more cars, make more profit, and actually improve the after-sales department whenever we can. And we've got a great friend of the show, Colin McAllister, back. So Colin, how are you, sir?
I'm very good, thank you, and Happy New Year to you, because we're recording this in the 6th of January, so I'm still allowed to say that.
It is Happy New Year, 6th of January. This is why we both got time to do this. Although, have you been back into it already? 2 days back for you up in Scotland?
Yeah, it started back on the 5th. You know, obviously 1st and 2nd are a bank holiday in Scotland, but they were the weekend, so we closed for the 3rd and 4th. And so this is my 2nd day back, and thankfully completed all my MOT compliance audits, which was a fabulous way to start the new year.
That is a fabulous way to start the new year. So listen, start the new year. There's often New Year's resolutions. Okay, I'm going to run the marathon. I'm going to run 5K every second day. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. In the motor trade, we all know about SMART goals. Okay, don't just come to work and say, right, I'm going to sell as much as I can. I'm going to make as much profit as I can. It needs to be specific. It needs to be measurable. Okay, it needs to be realistic. I'm trying to spell here. Achievable, realistic, achievable, and time. See, I'm dyslexic. Well, I'm not actually, but maybe I should be. So we know there should be SMART goals, but I want to open up the conversation, Colin. It's all about motivation. Our job as a manager, we need to motivate our team to do what they should do, okay? And especially at the start of the year, I want to get your views on how do we get people to do what they should do? How do we motivate people to do what they should do?
Well, it's an interesting thing, because motivation is one of the things where you can't give motivation to somebody. You know, you can take it away from them. You know, but people are born with boundless, motivation. You take a 6-year-old and you say to a 6-year-old, do you want to go to a birthday party? And they're like, yes, let's go. There'll be jelly, there'll be balloons, it'll be amazing. And then you take that same person 10 years later at 16 and go, do you want to go to a birthday party? Whose party is it? Who's going to be there? That's totally rubbish. And so they've kind of lost that boundless enthusiasm through, maybe it's been a track of, not positive reinforcement, being told this is wrong, that's wrong, you're wrong at this. And they kind of lose that. But what we can do is we can reignite, that I think Martin Rooney says, it's not about lighting a fire under somebody. It's lighting a fire inside somebody, and it's finding out, what is going to light that fire.
Sorry, who said that?
Martin Rooney, Coach to Coach, a fantastic book. And it's finding out what's going to keep that burning in, because if you've got that burning inside you, that's going to keep burning for ages. And that's where we get this, New Year's resolutions that last. It's on the radio today, and I go in the office and they've got the radio on, and they're already, there's all these people phoning in going, they've already broke them. On
the 6th there. That is so true. I love the idea of that, because it's so many times you get the manager lighting the fire under people. Do this, do that, do this. True motivation comes from within, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to be that. So, listen, can I ask you though, what are some of the motivation tactics that you've seen in the past, or you've tried, or within the dealer groups that you've done? Is there anything specific?
Yeah, we've got, there's loads of the incentive ones. And we kind of briefly spoke about this one in the podcast earlier on, but never expanded upon it. When I used to have, Auto Expo, and I would go around and do all these prospecting events, and we would have scratch cards. And we'd have pizza, and you'd have a scratch card for every appointment, and it was one of these things where it became tired on there. People used to, can you send scratch cards? And it's almost, that thing you used to say about that incentive becoming a right, and it's very instant gratification. So we went to change that, and we did one of the ones that worked really well, which kept people on the phone, kept people going, was this thing, the golden envelope.
Right. Talk us through the golden envelope.
So the golden envelope, and it was we physically had this golden envelope, and so the person that made the most recent appointment got the golden envelope, and that was on their desk. Now the golden envelope would be a great price. It would be, like a 60-inch telly, or something of that ilk, and it had to physically be there. If it was I'll get you a 60-inch telly, nobody believes that, because the number of times a dealer makes a promise to somebody and then you never get that incentive. I'm still waiting for a Rolex watch for 1989. So it has to physically be there, and you run around with this golden envelope, and Ross gets the appointment and he gets the golden envelope, but just as it lands on his desk, Davey makes an appointment, so you run across to Davey with the golden envelope, and then Billy's got the.
So the last person gets it. Yeah, I'm with you now. Yeah.
So we were in one of the best ones we were in was Parks of Hamilton, and it was the big place in East Kilbride, and there was 5 training consultants there, but they had a mega prize. It was 3 tellies,
right,
different sizes for the whole house, really. And so we're running, I think there was 20 salespeople ish. So we're running these big, basically like air raid shelters for the cars. So running from Renault to Honda to Nissan, and just running up and down this whole place. And you're trying to get the guys to stop phoning at 8:15. And 10 to 9, they're still calling. And there's a guy on the phone, and everyone's going, no, he's faking it. So we had to phone back and make sure that customer made an appointment before he got to keep the golden envelope. But it was terrific because the whole thing just kept it bouncing along right to the end. So, the scratch cards rewarded the activity, getting the appointment,
I love that because there's no clear winner till the end.
Yes.
My concern with motivation, these little, let's call them spivs or prizes or something like that, through a campaign period, okay, what happens is it works great to start with, but then throughout the period, there's a clear winner. So what happens is everyone else gives up, okay, but also the person right in front, they give up as well because they know they got to get it. With that, there's no clear winner till the end.
Yeah, you can make one appointment in the entire 2 nights and walk away with a telly.
Now, listen, any of my clients will know that I love the poker hand competition. Yeah. This comes directly from Tony Island, okay? And I like it because you can do this on any part of the business you want to improve. If you want to improve red and amber upsell work, air conditioning servicing work, okay, tire sales, gaps. Well, actually, we got to be careful incentivizing gap at the moment with FCA, but number of cars sold. The one I use it on is demonstrations. If you need to focus on demonstrations, it's simplicity in itself. What happens is whenever the salesperson does a demonstration over that campaign period, they get a playing card, just an everyday playing card. Now, at the end of the campaign period, whoever's got the best poker hand wins the competition. Now, I like that because it costs you as a manager a lot less money. Because if you've got a team of 10 people and you put £100 or €100 incentive for each person, that's going to cost you $1,000 or whatever your currency is. Now, actually, $100 might not motivate that salesperson that much. But 1,000, winner takes all. That's a big old chunk of, oh, I want that. But the beautiful thing is, Colin, you might have 10 cards, but actually you got a whole lot of 2s and 3s and nothing really good. You got Davey, he might actually only have, I don't know, half the number of cards, but he's got a pair of aces and he's just looking for one more king. So everyone's motivated till the end, okay? But the other reason I like that, it puts the fun back into the team, okay? And these cards, I promise you, they almost become a bit of a currency in the business, okay? Now,
we ran that and we had to physically sign the back of the cards.
Yes,
so
sir.
We didn't buy another pack. And then you had to write down who you gave it to because they were trading.
Trading cards, one another.
Or holding it, pretending they've got a royal flush, they're at it.
That
and
is
the other
it.
ones, they were like, oh, I've got a bunch of twos.
I tell you what I love to do is when we do that, we tell the guys, keep the cards yourself because we're actually going to play a real game of poker at the end. Doesn't matter if you do or not. It doesn't matter. You just want to make sure they don't get that one person gets a really big hand early on and everyone else gives up there. But can't you use that as a great little training tool at the end there, Colin? So what happened is you can say, hey, Johnny, how many cards have you got? I've actually got 15. How many cars did you sell? It's actually 7. Funny that. How many have you got? I got 20. How many do you sell? 10. Funny that. It might prove the relationship between demonstrations and cars sold. Now, hey, listen, demonstrations in the remote world we're in, you don't have to do it on that. You can do it on anything you want to incentivize.
Yeah, it's about rewarding activity, isn't it? You know, that's the key thing. So it's what's the thing you want people to do? And let's reward that. You know, I've got a couple of examples. So I was doing a motor show in Valencia, and it was the sales guys that were working. We had no promo staff. It was all sales guys. And I said, I'm going to give you €1 for everyone you speak to in cash on the day. And I turned up with a big bag of euros. And so they're like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. He's at it. So the doors open, and the people walking in, the first salesman.
How big was the bag? How big's the bag, Colin?
It was like a big bag of cash, right?
Yeah.
So this first sales guy sprints right up to the door. They're not even anywhere near the stand. And he's like, hola, ¿qué tal? You know? And so he runs back. And I go, there's your euro. Because he said hello. And he went, oh, he's actually giving the euros. So we had the busiest stand, but we sold in 10 days at a motor show 139 cars.
Yeah. I think I've heard
that conversation.
But you're not meant to sell cars at motor shows.
No, you're not. No. Yes. So it was terrific. Another example of that, we did one with, and it's great for just now's market as well, because what we're trying to do, we're trying to find cars. And so we did one, this was ages ago, with the showroom host, and we said to her, look, I'm going to give you a £1 coin for every time you ask this customer a question. The question's really easy. Mr. Bowkett, why are your cars with us today for the servicing? Would you like it valued? And regardless of the answer, we're going to give you £1. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to tell me where you're going on holiday. Right? So she said, well, I'm going to go to Mexico. So we got cut out this picture of Mexico, put it inside one of these big sweetie jars, big plastic sweetie jars.
Yeah, I know the ones.
Foxes, Glacier mints and stuff like that. So other mints are available. So picture of Mexico in there. We cut a hole in the lid. We taped up the thing so you couldn't steal £1 coins out of it. And we just fired those £1 coins in. And what was happening is they were piling up. And that Mexican holiday was becoming more realistic as you went along. And we were just rewarding that simple question. But she asked it every service customer every time because she could see her holiday was getting paid for.
Again, activity, not the results. Okay. Here's a bizarre one. I've got to give credit to this to a guy called Mike Hampson, part of the RIG group, runs a Toyota dealership in Altrincham. Great operator, really good operator. And I don't know if this is his or where he's got it from. But this podcast is all about sharing tips and ideas.
Absolutely.
What he did was he had a huge bucket. It reminds me of you in Valencia, but it was a huge bucket. I think he had 5 Ps in there. Okay, might have been 2 Ps. No, I think it was 5 Ps. So a huge bucket. And when someone sold a car, they could either get a teaspoon or a dessert spoon or as a wooden spoon, depending on the value of the deal they done. I mean, I think if they sold it with all value-added products, they got the dessert spoon. Or the other way he did it is you get 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 15 seconds to scoop as many of these 5 Ps out of the big bucket into your little bucket as you could when you've done the deal. So what happens? People who do a deal in the sales meeting, they'll be sitting there saying, right, you ready? Go! And he's got 5 seconds. And they're scooping this stuff out and coins are flying everywhere. And it's a huge laugh and a joke. But it's so funny, but people have got that cash. They're going and buying their lunch at the Subway with a whole lot of piles of 5 Ps there. But I think why that worked is it put the fun into the team. But also, actually, aren't some salespeople, do they run out of the end of their money before the end of the month?
Yeah.
So actually, it was cash. It was there and then, so they could actually get it. Again, another one there. It's That's now with that they were rewarding the result, okay, but I suppose it put the fun into it.
Yeah,
There must be some
so,
other incentives you've seen in your time. I love these because people
well,
take
you just
them.
reminded me actually of one when you were talking about that, because people run out of money, and we had one. So I was running a contact team, so I was running this contact centre team, and they were doing service and MOT reminder calls, booking service and MOTs in. And it was during the remember the Icelandic volcano eruption.
Yeah.
And so we had a real problem getting cars in for service, and so we had so we were phoning, and we came up with this thing that if you get to half of the target for today, but so it's called done by one, right? So if you had half of the target for the day done by one,
half by one, okay.
Boss buys lunch.
Boss buys lunch.
So we would set, there's the service target, there's the MOT target, and everyone went absolutely haywire in the morning to get the bookings. Now, you might think, well, in the afternoon they slackened off, but here's the trick, because when you're phoning in the morning, you're getting lots of voicemails. So you're leaving the voicemail, but you're desperate to get the bookings, so you keep dialing to get the bookings. In the afternoon, people have had their lunch and they start phoning you back. So your activity becomes mainly inbound from the voicemails that you left in the morning. We got the target, but everybody was like loving it because the boss was having to buy lunch.
Yeah.
And it was great. And weirdly enough, the weeks where it was the strongest were the last weeks of the month, where people were like, I'm really skint, I can't afford a sandwich a day. Right.
That's it. I'll tell you something else that's just, I love having these conversations with you because you remember different things. This comes from a man called Michael Smythe. Great motor trader. Ran and sold the RRG group, developed EMAC, the warranties company, owns Swansway now. Just a great operator. And he always said, it's not just money that motivates people. Okay, it's stuff they wouldn't buy themselves. And he was famous for putting on a Rolex watch or a trip to Latuke. He'd hire a plane and take people to Latuke. And I remember he's saying, all these senior managers, the bits they remember is, there's that TV I won. I won this watch, and winning that watch for something they've achieved is so much better than just the cash for people to go out and buy it. And I like the idea of incentives being something you wouldn't spend your own money on. I mean, in the motor trade, if I go on holidays, I would hate to pay for myself business first class seats. I don't like that. But actually, when you win that trip and the manufacturer puts you in that seat, it's so much better because you've won it. It's stuff you wouldn't spend your own money on. I suppose that's what I like about those. Any other great...
What's the one? MG Rover did one. This was years. Obviously, it was MG Rover. So they did one, and they wrote out to the wives of the managers. And said, "This is a holiday that your husband has got the chance of winning, or wife." And and so what was it? They gave them the rules of engagement, and then they were like phoning back on, how you doing, honey? What's for dinner tonight? Never mind dinner. How many cars have you done today? And they were absolutely just, don't you bother coming home until you've got another 3. And so the families were all engaged because they were looking at what was in it for the family.
Well, I could tell you that one there may have been one of the conversations we had in the past. Tony Ireland did a similar thing to me in Townsville, North Queensland. He was actually find out from all the different salespeople. Okay, one guy just had a new baby, he'd been a holiday or whatever. And the targets he would always send to their partners. Now, hey, listen, I was working out there, and he said to my girlfriend at the time, a picture of a diamond ring. I mean, whoa, you've gone too far on that one, Mr. Ireland. Okay. But I love the idea that, listen, come into March time, September time, or, you've got January and July in Ireland, plate change months in the different country you're working at. Remember, it's not just the salesperson, it's the whole family. In motor trade, we work some long hours. Absolutely. And it comes back to, even time off is sometimes the incentive, isn't it? It doesn't have to cost you a lot of money to do these. It
doesn't, but it is. It's about that inclusion. It's about including everybody. Because, so many times we think, well, the sales department is the heroes. Well, what about sales admin? What about the valeters? What about the PDI techs? What about the showroom host that took all those phone calls? One of our dealerships won an award, and we've sold more Q product than anyone else in Europe. And
well done. That's a big accolade. More Q
it was
product.
amazing. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Well done to them. They absolutely deserve it. They do a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went up and the sales manager on something completely unrelated. And Magic, one of the valeters, was in his office. And I says, Magic, well done on getting that Audi Spirit Award, by the way. That was fantastic. And he looked at me and went, hey, so you sold more Q product than any other dealer in Europe. You know, that's fabulous. And the sales manager says, what the hell are you doing congratulating him? And I turned around to the sales manager and says, well, how many cars did you clean, pal? You know, he was like, oh, right. You know, because they had rewarded sales admin, they had rewarded all the sales guys. But they hadn't went and thought, do you know what about the hosts? What about the valeters? You know, what about the vehicle progressors? You know, because you know, one of the guys in that dealership sold and delivered 100 cars in 1 month.
Wow.
Now, there's no way he could do that.
He can't do it by himself.
The PDI techs, the valeters, you know, the handover specialists, all of that behind him. And he admits that himself. He's an amazing sales guy. Wouldn't take away from Tony's a brilliant guy, but he would admit it himself that he would not be able to do that anywhere else.
It's inclusion.
Thanks to the structure and the processes that he was able to do it. But everyone involved in that structure and processes needs to be rewarded and recognised.
Yeah, we started talking about motivation, but this is probably incentives we've gone into.
Yes, it is.
It really is. But and sometimes the motor trade, we're looking for that short-term incentive because we need something really, really quick, don't we? We're looking for that result. And unfortunately, the manufacturers, they put that pressure on us sometimes, and that's how it happens. And we just need to look for that quick result there.
I mean, interesting talking about incentives. You know, I used one of yours. If you remember the 9 square that you used to use for target cars, right?
Please, did it work well for you?
Well, we had to turn it on its head because we don't have 9 cars. So, so we did it for buying.
Great.
Because, you know, you're looking at your sales guys now and they're paid on selling
So
cars.
people haven't heard this. Could you run through the 9 square again? And by the way, not mine. I stole that from the National Automotive Dealers Association. It was a NADA top 20 ideas there. Can you run through for the people listening to this? Now, bear in mind, lots of people are listening to this in their car. So explain it the best you can. Great incentive.
You use a board, a flip chart, whatever, and you have 9 squares on this to make one big square. And you know, it's 3 by 3 by 3. And then what you used to do when you were trying to sell the target cars, you put your 9 oldest swingers in town on there. And then, so if you sold the car, the first person to sell a car. Sorry,
Colin, I've got to stop you there. An overage car, people who've only been in the motor trade for the last 18 months, you might have to explain what one of those is.
Absolutely. Yes. Target car, right? Okay. The car that you want to get rid of, right?
Yes.
So you would have the first person to sell one of the target cars would get their name in the box and they would get 20 quid. And then the next person to sell car number 2, they would get their name in the box and they would get 20 quid. But the first guy would get 20 quid because he was the first guy on. And then somebody else would sell car number 3, and then that would go in box number 3, and then he would get 20 quid. This guy would get 20 quid, and the first guy would get 20 quid.
So the very first person, the key to make money out of that is to be a fast starter. Yeah, sell the first car. But it brings the whole team together, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was brilliant. So we did it on buying.
Okay.
Because what do we need right now? Cars.
Stock.
So we did it on, you know, we've got a thing, simply sell your car. And, you know, everyone's got a kind of buying platform just now because they need to. So that's our Simply Sell. And for every Simply Sell where we managed to buy it, 20 quid. And the first person in the dealership, 20 quid. And the second person in the dealership, 20 quid. And the first one got 20 quid. And then the third. So it works all the way back. And it sounds expensive, but it's £1,340 it costs you to get 9 cars.
Yeah.
It works out at, you know. So
I love it. It sounds like a big old chunk of money, but to get cadet 9 cars, 1,300, you'd pay that all day long, wouldn't you?
And just now, the sales guys loved it because we were employing them to sell cars that weren't in existence.
Yeah.
So they were going into their database and they're looking, oh, that guy's got a fantastic Kodiak. I'll phone him up and see if I can get rid of it.
Yeah, great.
And so they were going in and they were buying stuff. And you know, one guy did. He actually convinced the customer that he only needed 1 car, and he bought the wife's car and the target customer's car off him and got 40 quid because he's like, yeah, you only need. Now probably when Pascal through, phone him back and convince him he needs 2 again. And fair play to the guy, but it was brilliant. So you would never get that before. Is people just want to buy your car, and literally, I do want to buy your car, and I'm getting paid for buying your car.
Yep.
And if you want to buy another one, fair enough, So
at the time, that's brilliant, Colin. I don't know if you can see, but we've been doing training today there. Can you see on our flip chart what I'm having to write down there?
Yeah, I saw it as soon as I come on, and it reminds me, Alex Johnson, my first ever sales manager, he used to say it constantly to me, don't see what you can sell what you can see. And
guys, again, listen to this. We've got up there, don't see what you can sell. You got to sell what you can see. And I tell you what, in this market, isn't that so true with the supply of new and used cars being where it is there? It's definitely, I love this talking about incentives. It's a bit different today, but I hope that the guys are getting some ideas, incentives they've done or maybe done in the past. Another one that Swansway Group do regularly is they go and spend a whole lot of money on crazy sort of stuff, okay? A box of beer. Now, you might think in your dealership, I'm not going to do alcohol. That's fine. That's going to be your choice there. Yep. But it'll be like sweets. It is a tombola. That's a great way to explain it. Lots of different things, okay? And whenever you sell a car, guess what? You pull out the ticket and it's one of these random prizes. From a weird mask, okay, to the meal for two at the Ivy.
We did it in one of our dealerships. The service manager was pushing for tyres, and it was the tyre tombola, it was called.
Yeah.
And every time you sold a tyre, you got a ticket, and if you did like 3 tyres, you got 3 tickets, 4 tyres, 4 tickets, and you would go. And he had like from bags of sweets to toasters to microwaves to a weekend away, like all sorts of crazy stuff, and they just loved it. The dealers was right on it. His tyre sales went through the roof, and listen, we're not inventing that customer needs tyres. The facts of the National Tyre Distributors Association says that 1 in 8 cars needs a tyre.
Okay.
So there's plenty of cars needing tyres that come into the dealerships that you're capitalising on.
Yep.
On end that you go and
No, that's true. It's just not offered all the time. It's putting focus on it, isn't it?
Yep.
And it's going back to what you said before. Let's focus on the activity.
Yeah.
Let's offer the tyre. Let's offer the tyre, not just for a tombola. Because it's at the front of your mind. It's there. Okay, it's quite funny. I know that Colin and I, we've been talking about something that Simcoe is developing, and it really excites me. We know that we all record all the incoming telephone calls into business for training purposes. Your service manager, as a trainer within John Clark, you can't listen to every single upsell that's coming in and out. And we're so excited about this AI technology where it's listening to all the calls and pulling out the vehicle health check calls. So our trainers, our coaches can just listen to that call and provide the coaching on that call. On the sales side of it, okay, when someone says, I'm crying about that new car, used car, we can actually listen to just the inquiries. Yep. And when people phone back, and we can do really tailored coaching. And through AI, it's working brilliant. But there's something else there. The reason why it's such a strong thing is because it's focus. You know what? A service advisor, if they know that every single vehicle health check call, okay, where tyres were required, and they offer it, if they know that a manager or a training company is going to listen to every call, they'll actually just offer it more. And if they offer it more, guess what? People will take it. So many times, I think service advisors make the decision for the customer. Mm-hmm. They won't want that. Okay. A salesperson will make the decision for the customer there. Actually, it's all about focus on the activity. Isn't that what incentives is?
Yeah. I mean, totally, it's not related to motivation or incentives, but actually it had an impact on this guy's career. So I had a service advisor on one of our sites. BMW X5 was in, needed 2 tyres. Mm-hmm. And the guy looks at it and he's like, Colin, I can't sell this guy the tyres.
Why?
580 quid for these tyres. That's a lot of money. I said, well, what's the car? I said, X5, how much was that? I said, what do you drive? He said, well, I've got a Rover 45. And I said, well, how much was that? He said, well, I bought it for 350 quid. And I said, right, and how much would you spend on a tyre? He went, probably about 35 quid. I went, so 10% of the value of your car.
Yep.
So how much is this guy's car? And weirdly enough, it's about 10% of the value of the car, right? I said, he's probably going to spend £500 on a decent lunch at the weekend or something like that. I said, well, listen, and he's still going to get. So I phoned the guy, and after a bit of jiggery pokery, got the tyres done, sorted, terrific, right? So in that dealership, the service advisor that's looked after the customer goes round the back of the dealership, gets the car, and personally drives it round to the front and hands it over to the customer.
Okay.
Lovely thing for customer satisfaction. So Valeter said, cleaned out the car, hoovered the car, and they put some bits of paper in the centre console. So Gordon's like, oh, look at the mess these guys have left. They put bits of paper in the centre console. One of those bits of paper was a receipt, right? For 600 quid from the weekend at this hotel, right? And he took a photograph of it on his phone, right? Not trying to steal the customer's details. So he handed the car over to the customer. Customer's away, and he came in and went, "No way! Look at this!" And shows me the picture on his phone, right?
It's
so
like
that guy now is a parts manager for us.
Yeah.
Because the big thing he realised that day was that he shouldn't be thinking in his budget terms for that customer. He should be thinking about that customer's budget terms.
Yeah.
And so did it incentivize him? Didn't incentivize him? Did it motivate him? Probably. And therefore he's developed his career and got to somewhere else now.
Yeah.
And he tells that story to his staff when they're having to sell genuine Volkswagen parts to a customer versus, your independent factor parts.
Now, Colin, I've got to say, people listen to this, though, there's a warning. There's a caveat to this.
Yeah.
And the caveat is that any incentive, any privilege, very quickly, Colin, it becomes a
right.
It does.
An expectation.
An expectation there. So incentives there. What do you mean by that? Any incentive becomes a right. I love that phrase. Can you explain what you mean about that?
Yeah, so if I'm paying you 20 quid to buy a car this month, and then I don't pay you 20 quid next month, you go, I'm not buying that car. So we end up, we create this coin-operated function, and so I want you to do this. How much do I get for that then?
Yeah.
Well, you don't. Well, I'm not doing it. And then you cave in and pay them to do it, and then you have to cave in again. So, really, that's a huge danger of using incentives, and that's why things like thinking about different things other than cash. I was having a think earlier on about I used to use mystery envelopes.
Yep.
And so the mystery envelope, somebody does. Let's just use selling cars because it's easy, but it could be a VHC upsell, could be sold a tyre, an air conditioning service, a brake fluid change, whatever. You get a mystery envelope. That mystery envelope could contain a full tank of fuel. It could contain, a fancy demo for your holiday. It could contain a free VAP for a sales exec to give away to get a deal. One of my favourite ones was actually £200 extra on a part exchange price.
Okay.
To get a deal. And the good thing with that is the sales guys, they could play it, and if they didn't get the deal, they didn't get that £200 back again.
That was done.
That was the one life only.
I've not heard that one. That's a nice one.
It was great. Now there was a manager, right, in one of the sites we used to do a lot of business with regularly, and he was a bit crazy, this guy. And so I came and I said, how are we doing? He says, I've done all the mystery envelopes, Colin. Don't need to worry about it. I've got them all sorted. It's going to be great. And I was like, okay. And he was really excited. And so we're going through this prospecting night, and there's a wooden spoon comes out. I'm like, too convinced on this one. There's getting your shirt ironed for a month. I thought, oh well, okay, that's quite useful, right? If it was somebody struggling to get their shirt ironed. But the very last one, so the guy this guy had got 9 appointments over the course of the night. So he was the top performer for the night, right? 9 appointments. His very last prize was a tin of Campbell's soup. And it just knocked the guy's plug in. He thought, I've worked like a bear all night. I've got 9 appointments that are real, they're not flyby appointments. They're not I force the customer to give me an appointment. It's not the customer's giving me an appointment to get me off the phone appointments. These are real customers in the market to buy a vehicle, and I've got a tin of soup. Yeah. And so it's really important that, that might be funny to you, but you need to think about it. See, the next night, I couldn't get the guy to make a single
No. Listen, and I'm sure the manager was trying to put that as a bit of fun there and do that. But listen, I think what we get there is make sure you incentivize the activity, not the results, where possible. Make sure there's not a clear winner right from the beginning. Okay, anyone can win it at any point, depending on their ability there. But so important there. It's got to be yeah, let's put some fun into the business there. But actually, it's the one that I told this story before somewhere on the podcast. We still work with this client, and I don't want to embarrass anyone there, but there's a situation where the guy, if they didn't hit their target, they got an old car. And they sign it on the side, I'm driving this car because I missed my target from XYZ dealership.
Yep.
And it was an old car. And because he was the bottom of the board, he had to go and drive that. Okay. You know what? It was horrendous. The guy left the business there because what they didn't realize is he was picking his son up. Okay. I don't remember the whole story, but I think he'd gone through a divorce. Okay. And he's picking his son up, and sign written down the side of it is, I'm driving this car because my dad's
I'm a loser. It's basically a big massive loser.
Of course, the guy left. Okay, we don't know the situation. Let's make sure it's positive. Okay, let's make sure incentives are just that, an incentive, not the actual wages there. Okay, we have commission anyway. This should be, let's put a bit of fun in it. Okay, and also for me, the other one I like is make them shorter. Make them not just over the month, make them for that weekend, make it for that evening, make it short, quick, to the point. And never forget what Colin always says, any privilege becomes a right. Okay, so let's just put a fun about it. And listen, I really enjoyed that chat there. I hope the guys have got some ideas on different incentives they can try. Hey, email us again. Send a message to us about some of the other incentives that you've done. There's so many different ones out there. And so motivation is not what we should have called this. Incentives, incentives you can try. Colin, I love our conversations. I hope the listeners and the viewers of this have got some great ideas again. Thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciate it.
No, it's been fabulous, fantastic. I always enjoy these. It always reminds me of loads of stuff as well, which is terrific. And yeah, I would love to see some of the comments on LinkedIn of people if they want information on how to run incentives, or if they want to say, I've done this and it's worked really well, because it's about sharing best practice.
It is.
And what can work for you can work for.
Again, as always, to find Colin McAllister, easiest way to find him is Colin McAllister on LinkedIn. Okay, Colin McAllister is the training manager for the John Clark Group. Oh, and also, I don't know if our listeners have known your new role. Can you tell our listeners about the Scottish Motor Industry Association? What are you doing with them, sir?
Scottish Motor Trade Association. Yeah, I'm a non-exec director for the SMTA. I took up the post at the beginning of November. So yeah, looking to influence the entire industry for Scotland.
Listen, that sounds good. So again, that's how to get through to Colin. Again, follow me, Simon.Bowkett, or on LinkedIn, Simon Bowkett there. Again, let us know about some of the incentives you've done. And Colin will be back again, I'm sure, in 2 or 3 months' time. And let us know any other things that you want to specifically kick around some ideas on. Anyway, been great to hear, and we'll speak to you next week. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, simcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.